Nanda landed naturally on all four paws. The impact was minimal, but the sudden return to reality made her twitch in surprise. Her sharp eyes blinked against the bright light, squinting at her new surroundings. The sun blazed overhead, its heat radiating off endless dunes of shimmering sand. She was no longer in Thebes, or at least, not the one she had just left behind. In the distance, ancient ruins rose from the desert, their once grand structures now reduced to crumbling stone. "This is different," she muttered dryly, her voice barely cutting through the still air. "Seems like I've taken a detour." The desolation was overwhelming. Nanda sat back on her haunches for a moment, her fur absorbing the sun's heat. The golden desert stretched endlessly, with no sign of life in any direction. Yet her mind raced, calculating what this place meant for her journey. She adjusted the scarab pendant, letting it rest against her chest, its intricate engravings shimmering in the light. A bond to powers older than her. The now familiar soft hum of the artifact reassured her. "At least you're still with me," she remarked, eyeing the scarab with a sardonic glint. "Now would be a terrible time for you to vanish." Her thoughts shifted. This desert was definitely not the Thebes she knew. It looked older, but at the same time, newer, worn down and desolate. Where had all the flowers gone? Time had moved forward, possibly centuries. The world she left behind had crumbled beneath layers of sand, forgotten by time. Hot as hell, check. No sign of life, check. Big pyramids, yep, definitely still ancient Egypt, she mused. Now where's Shempu? I have a feeling this is where he disappeared to, and why I suspect I've followed. Something felt wrong. The desert silence was unnerving, and the air itself still seemed so very heavy. Shempu had to be nearby. She couldn't shake the feeling that this was all part of his plan. Or was it? It didn't seem like he'd intended to be beaten and end up here. Maybe it was part of a divine plan rather than his own. Nanda narrowed her eyes, scanning the horizon for any sign of movement, any hint of the sorcerer's presence. But the desert revealed nothing but the occasional gust of wind that sent sand swirling in the air. If I were that ancient power-hungry sorcerer bent on godly domination, where would I be? She considered, her impatience growing. Her meowsings were interrupted by a shadow passing over her. Nanda's ears twitched, and she instinctively crouched low, her muscles coiling, ready to spring. Her sharp gaze shot upward, catching the silhouette of a massive bird circling high above. Well, that's new, she thought, as she looked on in awe. The bird was huge, its wings casting a shadow over the sand as it soared closer. Its feathers were a glossy black, with a faint metallic gleam. A golden band encircled its neck, etched with symbols she didn't immediately recognize. Definitely not dinner, she mused, though her sharp claws flexed instinctively. More like trouble. Big ancient trouble. The bird let out a cry that echoed across the desert, sharp and piercing. As it descended, it landed gracefully on the sand just a few paces away from her, its talons digging into the ground with a precision that made Nanda twitch slightly. "All right then," Nanda murmured under her breath. "Let's see what kind of weirdness we're dealing with this time." The bird eyed her with a gaze that felt ancient, wise, and calculating. There was something undeniably intelligent about it, more than just animal instinct. Nanda stayed perfectly still, her own gaze of piercing jade locking onto the bird's, unwavering. "You hold the golden scarab, the scarab of time," the bird said, its voice low and resonant. Like distant thunder, it was a statement, not a question. Nanda resisted the urge to roll her eyes, muttering quietly to herself. "Oh great, talking bird. Of course, why not? Because what I really need right now is a sidekick with feathers." She sat down with a huff, adding, "Let me guess, you've got a prophecy for me too?" Turning to face the bird with the cool indifference only a cat could muster, she quipped, "I do indeed hold the mighty scarab of which you speak. And who exactly am I speaking to now?" "I am Horus, watcher of the skies," the bird replied, lifting its head regally, "and protector of the ancient order." Nanda tilted her head slightly, whiskers twitching with a mix of amusement and skepticism. "Well, Horus, it's a pleasure to meet you, but you're interrupting my very important time-traveling business. Horace's eyes glinted with something akin to amusement, though his expression remained severe. You jest, but the scarab is no laughing matter, little cat. Little? Nanda's irritation was barely concealed now. Look, I didn't ask for this, she said, her tone shifting to something more serious. I'm trying to stop a maniac from messing with the gods. His name is Shampoo. I'm guessing you've heard of him? Horace's feathers ruffled slightly, and his expression darkened at the name. Shampoo, yes. His ambition knows no bounds. But you, cat, how do you come to possess the scarab? Nanda gave a small, almost imperceptible shrug. Bastet gave it to me. Well, indirectly. She made me work for it. Apparently, she thought I'd be useful. Bastet? Horace echoed, his voice contemplative. She is not known for frivolous choices. If she has chosen you, there must be a reason. Nanda's lips curled into a dry smile. Glad someone thinks so. Horace studied her for a long moment, his gaze weighing heavily on her. The desert around them seemed to hold its breath, the silence thickening as if the very sands were waiting to see what would happen next. You are not of this time, Horace said, his voice quiet but firm. You have disturbed the natural order. By touching the scarab, you have set events in motion that cannot be easily undone. Nanda's ears twitched. Great. Just what I needed. Another thing I've apparently screwed up, she thought privately. Then, making her thoughts public, she responded, her voice level but sharp. Look, I didn't mean to mess with anything. I'm just trying to stop Shampoo from opening a portal to the realm of the gods. You know, the kind of thing that could end very, very badly. Horace's gaze shifted toward the distant pyramids, his expression unreadable. Shampoo is a danger, yes. But by taking the scarab, you have invited other forces into play, forces far beyond Shampoo. Of course, Nanda thought bitterly. It's never just one problem, is it? You must understand, Horace continued. The scarab is not simply a tool, it is a key. A key that opens doors that should remain shut. Nanda frowned, her mind racing. What kind of doors are we talking about? Time is a fragile thing, Horace said, his voice low, almost a warning. One misstep, it could be shattered completely. The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Nanda swallowed hard, her body language betraying her agitation. No pressure, she thought, just holding the fate of time itself in my paws. Fantastic. So what now? She asked, her voice more serious than before. How do I stop Shampoo without unraveling everything? Horace was silent for a moment, his eyes scanning the horizon as if seeing beyond Nanda's comprehension. You must learn to control the scarab's power. Only then will you stand a chance against Shampoo. And how exactly am I supposed to do that? Nanda's tone was frustrated, but she quickly reined it in. Keep it cool. No need to irritate the god bird. Horace's gaze returned to her, unreadable. I will help guide you. In the background, I can help influence your decisions. But ultimately, the scarab's power must be mastered by you alone. No one can wield it for you. Nanda sighed. Alone, of course. Horace's voice softened. Even a cat like you can hold great power if you understand it. Nanda's ears flicked, her tail twitching in irritation. Great. Another cryptic lesson. Power comes with problems, she muttered, and right now, this feels like one. Unfazed by her response, Horace gave her a measured look. Nothing worth doing is without complications, Nanda. Great, a philosophical bird, she muttered. Look, Horace, time is ticking, pun fully intended. What do I do first? Horace's gaze lingered on her for a moment longer, his eyes glowing faintly. You need to find the source. There, you will unlock the scarab's full potential. Only then will you have the strength to face Shampoo a second time. Nanda sighed. The source? This feels like a video game quest. Where exactly do I find this source? Horace turned his head toward the distant pyramids, shimmering in the heat. There, he said simply. At the heart of the desert, beneath the sands. Nanda followed his gaze, narrowing her eyes at the distant structures. Of course, she muttered, her tone wry. Why would it ever be easy? First temples, now pyramids. This is just getting predictable. Horace's beak curved slightly, almost as if he was amused by her. Do not be discouraged. You are closer than you think. Nanda stood up, stretching and shaking the sand from her fur. Fine. Heart of the desert it is. She gave him a sidelong glance. You're not coming with me, I suppose? No, Horace said, his tone turning grave. This path is yours alone to walk. Right, she sighed. Of course, that's what everyone says. Bastet has placed her trust in you for a reason, Nanda. Do not forget that, Horace said, spreading his wings wide. I will be watching, but the choices are ultimately yours to make. Without waiting for a response, Horace took off into the sky, his shadow passing over Nanda before disappearing into the horizon. Nanda watched him go, and glanced down at the scarab hanging from the chain upon her chest. The heart of the desert, huh? It's not like I have a better option right now. She gingerly bit the scarab, feeling its ancient energy thrumming beneath her teeth, and began walking toward the pyramids in the distance, holding it in her mouth. As she trekked through the shifting sands, her mind wandered some more, piecing together everything that had led her here. Bastet thinks I can handle this, she thought, narrowing her eyes. But what if she's wrong? What if I mess this up and break time? The weight of the scarab seemed heavier now, and for the first time since the journey began, doubt crept in. No, she told herself firmly. I don't have time for that. I'm here. I've got a job to do. I'm going to stop Shempu no matter what. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, the pyramids loomed larger, their imposing shapes cutting through the fading light. Despite the desert heat, a chill ran down Nanda's spine. Something was off again. Would it ever feel right? Her ears twitched, sensing the subtle vibrations in the air, like antennae picking up distant signals. A deep rumble vibrated through the sand beneath her, like a sudden earthquake, sending ripples across the desert floor. Nanda leapt to the side just in time as the ground beneath her gave way. A section of the dunes collapsed, revealing a stone entrance to an ancient underground tomb or hidden chamber. Long buried beneath the shifting sands, a soft, ethereal glow leaked from the doorway, casting light on the intricate artistry carved into the stone. The symbols twisted and curled like whispers from another time, their meaning long lost, yet their presence undeniable. Well, that's not ominous at all, Nanda quipped, her seemingly new favorite catchphrase, her voice barely rising above the soft hiss of the desert wind. With a cautious step, she approached the entrance, the light dancing across her sleek fur. She placed the scarab at her forepaws, its golden surface shimmering faintly in the glow. Gazing into the dark passageway, a surge of unease mingled with resolve. Okay, Nanda. Time to confront whatever ancient horrors are waiting for you down there. Just as she was about to step inside, a voice echoed from the shadows. You're not the first to seek the source, little one. Nanda's fur bristled, and she spun around, her claws unsheathed, ready to strike. A figure emerged from the darkness, a tall, cloaked figure, his face hidden beneath the hood. His voice was low and serpentine, sending a shiver down Nanda's spine. Who the hell are you? Nanda hissed, her body coiled in a defensive stance. The figure chuckled softly, the sound cold and devoid of warmth. I am simply a servant of Mahat, the guardian of balance. Nanda could not discern the sex or even the shape of the speaker's figure. They stepped closer, their movements unnaturally smooth. And you, Nanda, have tipped the scales by meddling with forces far beyond your understanding. Nanda's eyes narrowed. Great. Another cryptic lecture. I didn't ask for this, she snapped. I'm just trying to stop a psychopath from tearing reality apart. Or would you prefer I let him? The figure stopped, their hooded face turning toward her. The equilibrium must be maintained. Whatever actions you take, there will be consequences. Yeah, well, I'm used to consequences, Nanda replied. Doesn't mean I'm going to sit back and let Shempu win. The figure tilted its head, as if considering their words. Perhaps, they said slowly. But remember this, little one. Time is not a tool for you to use. It is a river, flowing as it must. If you disrupt its course, you will drown in the currents. Nanda held their gaze, which she could sense but not see, unflinching. I'll take my chances. The figure was silent for a long moment, then slowly nodded. Very well. But heed my warning, Nanda. The choices you make in the heart of the desert will echo through all of time. Choose wisely. And with that, the figure melted back into the shadows, disappearing as quickly as they had come. Nanda stood still for a moment, her mind racing. This just keeps getting better, she thought bitterly. But she wasn't one to be easily intimidated. With a determined glint in her eyes, she picked up the scarab once more and padded into the dark passageway. The air inside was cool, a sharp contrast to the heat of the desert. The glow from the scarab seemed to brighten, guiding her deeper into the labyrinth. As she walked, her thoughts churned. What did that person mean by consequences? And how the hell am I supposed to control this thing? She glanced down at the scarab, its energy pulsing in time with her heartbeat. Bastet picked me for a reason, she reminded herself. There's got to be something I'm missing. The passageway seemed endless, twisting and turning with no clear direction. But Nanda pressed on, her paws almost soundless against the stone floor. She couldn't shake the feeling that the hieroglyphs on the walls seemed to watch her every step, as if they were waiting for her next move. After what felt like an eternity, the narrow passageway gave way to a vast chamber. Its high ceiling lost in shadow. The air was thick with ancient energy, as though the very stones of the room held secrets whispered through millennia. At the heart of the space stood a towering stone plinth, crowned with a crystalline structure that seemed to breathe with a light of its own. It shifted from one color to another like the slow ebb and flow of a dying star. Nanda's breath caught in her throat. This is it. Her paws were steady despite the weight of the moment, her fur bristling slightly as the air around the crystal hummed with a magnetic intensity. Every step she took toward the plinth felt as though the ground itself shifted beneath her, as if the room were alive, watching, waiting. The source, she realized, was no mere object. It was a living force, one that throbbed with power and ancient purpose. As she neared the pedestal, the scarab hanging around her neck grew warm, its glow deepening with each footfall. A quiet thrumming vibrated in her chest, matching the growing intensity of the light. Her pulse quickened. She didn't flinch, though. The scarab was a part of her now, as much a tool as a warning. With a steady exhale, she unclasped the chain and gently placed the scarab onto the plinth beside the crystal. The moment it touched the stone, the chamber erupted in a storm of light. The crystal flared, filling the room with a searing brightness, and the walls around them seemed to be animated with life, their ancient carvings spiraling in rhythmic patterns, like a symphony of energy. The very air crackled with power. Time itself felt as though it had stopped, as if the universe had held its breath, watching. The scarab and crystal responded, their lights intertwining like two souls bound by fate. The ground trembled beneath Nanda's paws, the very fabric of space vibrating with the merging forces. Nanda stood frozen, eyes fixed on the entwining lights. The world around her seemed to dissolve into a blur of color and sound, and her heart raced as the weight of time, and the choice before her, settled upon her shoulders. Now or never. A shockwave of energy shot through the room, and Nanda braced herself, every nerve alight as the air radiated the raw, unbridled power of time itself. Then, in a blinding flash of light, everything went still. Nanda blinked, her vision clearing. The chamber was silent again, but the energy in the air was palpable. The scarab, now fused with the crystal, glowed softly upon the plinth. Nanda exhaled, realizing she'd been holding her breath. I did it. But before she could fully savor the moment, a deep, rumbling voice echoed through the chamber. You have unlocked the power of the scarab, the voice intoned, heavy with ancient authority. But with great power comes great responsibility, Nanda. The path ahead is fraught with danger. Nanda's ears twitched, her gaze scanning the chamber. Let me guess. More cryptic warnings? Starting to sense a theme here. The ancient voice didn't seem to appreciate her tone. It rumbled through the chamber again, shaking the stone walls. You mock the power you now hold. But time is not something to trifle with. Nanda narrowed her eyes, stepping closer to the scarab. I'm not mocking it, I'm just frustrated. Her tail flicked irritably. Everyone keeps telling me how important this is, but no one's actually telling me what I'm supposed to do with it. The voice grew quieter, more measured. The power of the scarab will guide you, but you must wield it wisely, or the very fabric of time will unravel. Nanda exhaled slowly, her eyes fixed on the glowing scarab. Wield it wisely. Easier said than done. How could she possibly have the wisdom needed to control something as vast as time? But there was no turning back now. I'll figure it out, she muttered to herself, her voice barely above a whisper. The chamber fell silent again, and for a moment, Nanda wondered if the voice had gone. She padded over to the scarab and gently nudged it with her paw. It was warm to the touch, buzzing faintly with energy. Okay, so now what? Before she could finish the thought, a flicker of movement caught her eye. A small gecko darted across the sandy floor, its vibrant colors flashing in the dim light. Instincts kicked in, and she felt a rush of excitement. A hunter's thrill. Oh, just a little snack, she thought, narrowing her focus. Quick game of tag, then back to the ancient horrors. But just as she was about to pounce, the walls began to shift. The hieroglyphs shimmered and rearranged, ignoring the potential snack at her feet. A doorway appeared at the far end of the chamber, glowing with an otherworldly green light. Nanda swallowed hard, torn between her instincts and the adventure ahead. Looks like I'm about to find out, she murmured, glancing back at the gecko, which now seemed to mock her from a safe distance. Fine, but you better run faster next time. With a final glance at the tiny creature, Nanda padded toward the glowing doorway, her steps measured but resolute. Every instinct screamed for her to turn back, to flee before things got any more complicated. But she couldn't. Not now. Not when she was so close to the answers she needed. As she crossed the threshold, the world around her shifted. The chamber, the pedestal, the scarab, everything melted away, replaced by a vast, open desert bathed in the eerie glow of twilight. The pyramids loomed once more in the distance, their shadows long and foreboding. And standing in the center of the desert, waiting for her, was her old friend, Shempu. Nanda's breath caught in her throat. Before her stood Shempu, tall and imposing, his dark robes billowing in the desert wind like shadows of an approaching storm. His eyes glowed with a malevolent fire, and the air around him hummed with a familiar crackle of dark energy. His signature, a subtle yet unmistakable mark of his power. So Shempu said, his voice dripping with malice. You again. The little cat has finally arrived. Nanda's muscles tensed, her claws digging into the sand. Yeah, I'm here. This time you're not leaving until I stop you for good. Shempu laughed, a low, menacing sound that sent a chill down her spine. You? Stop me? His eyes flicked to the scarab at her side, and his smile widened. You're in over your head, little one. You really don't understand what you've gotten yourself into. Nanda's heart pounded, but she refused to back down. I know exactly what I've gotten into. You're trying to mess with time, and I'm not going to let you. I'm not, I tell ye. Shempu's smile faded, his expression darkening. You think you can stop me with that trinket? He gestured dismissively toward the scarab. That power is far beyond your comprehension, cat. You're a fool to think you can control it. Nanda's eyes narrowed. Maybe, but I'd rather be a fool trying to do the right thing than a coward like you, hiding behind dark magic. Coward? Shempu scoffed, a mocking glint in his eyes. You're the one running around with a shiny toy, thinking it makes you special. Do you really believe you have what it takes to challenge me? Look around. You're alone, lost in a world that doesn't care about your little crusade. Nanda's fur bristled. That's rich coming from you. Scared of a little competition, are we? Shempu's eyes flashed with anger, and the air around him seemed to ripple. You dare insult me? Yeah, I dare. I'm a daredy cat, not a scaredy cat, she shot back. You're not as powerful as you think. You're just scared. Scared that I might actually succeed. He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a sinister whisper. You really think you can make a difference? You're just a cat playing at being a hero. What if everything you believe is a lie? What if the world is better off without you meddling? For a moment, Shampoo's words hung in the air, a venomous suggestion that pricked at her confidence. But Nanda steeled herself against the doubt. I'm not going to let you manipulate me. I know who I am and what I'm fighting for. Shampoo's expression hardened, and with a sudden violent movement, he raised his hands, causing the sand around them to erupt into a swirling whirlwind. Nanda leaped back, her heart racing. The sandstorm whipped around her, obscuring her vision and making it hard to breathe. But she didn't panic. She couldn't afford to. Focus, Nanda, she told herself. Remember what Bastet said. You have the power of the scarab. She closed her eyes, feeling the warmth of the scarab's energy pulsing at her side. Slowly, she reached out with her mind, connecting with the ancient power within them both. The energy surged through her, filling her with strength and clarity. When Nanda opened her eyes again, the world around her had transformed into a chaotic tapestry of shimmering light and darkness. The sandstorm howled like a furious beast, whipping through the air and swirling in violent spirals. Yet, amidst the chaos, she could discern the luminous threads of time weaving through the very fabric of existence. Each one a path, a choice, a consequence. At the heart of this tempest stood Shampoo, cloaked in shadows, his dark magic pulsating around him like a malevolent storm. His hands moved through the air, twisting the glowing threads with an eerie grace, attempting to bend time to his will. His eyes glinted with arrogance and fury, a wicked smile spreading across his face. Look at you, little cat, he sneered. You think you can stop me with that pathetic trinket? You're nothing but a fleeting moment in my grand design. Nanda felt a surge of defiance flood her veins. The scarab caused a rustling in her fur, its power igniting a fierce determination within. I'm not just a fleeting moment, she shot back, her voice steady, a roar beneath the storm. I'm the one who will end your twisted games. Shampoo's laughter echoed like thunder, mocking and chilling. You really believe that? You're out of your depth. This power is far beyond your comprehension. You're playing with forces you can't possibly understand. With a violent twist of his hands, the air thickened, shrouded in a dark fog. Nanda felt the power within herself rising to meet his challenge. Maybe I don't fully understand, but I'm willing to fight for the future. You're just a coward, hiding behind dark sorcery. Shampoo's expression darkened, his fury palpable. You dare insult me, he hissed, his voice dripping with venom. You think your bravery can match my power? I'll crush you, just as I crushed those who came before you. He unleashed a blast of shadowy energy, aiming straight for her heart. With a quick sidestep, Nanda narrowly avoided the attack, her instincts firing. Is that the best you've got? I expected more from a wannabe god, she taunted, her fur bristling with energy. You will regret that, Shampoo roared, his voice a thunderclap. He conjured a massive whirlwind of sand and shadow, sending it spiraling toward her like a dark tornado. You're nothing. Just a little pest trying to play the hero. Pests can be pretty pesky, Nanda shot back, her heart racing as she summoned the scarab's light. And right now, I'm the biggest pest you've ever faced. With fierce determination, she lunged forward, the glow of the scarab illuminating the chaos around her. As she dashed through the swirling sands, the power of the scarab coursed through her, amplifying her every move. You may be powerful, Shampoo, but you've underestimated me. I'm not fighting just for myself. I'm fighting for everyone you've hurt. Shampoo's eyes flashed with anger as he raised his hands, twisting the very fabric of time itself. Dark, shimmering strands appeared in the air around him, each one vibrating with a menacing energy. They looked like threads of shadow, winding and spiraling as though they were pulling at the very fabric of reality, ready to ensnare her. Fool! You think you can control time? You're a cat, and cats belong in the shadows. I'm not afraid of the shadows, Nanda shouted, her voice rising above the noise. You're the one hiding in them. With a swift movement, she struck at the threads Shampoo had twisted, sending a shockwave of light surging through the air. As her paw made contact, the world erupted in a blinding flash, illuminating the dark storm and freezing Shampoo in place. What? What are you doing? He stammered, disbelief and terror flickering in his eyes. I'm unraveling your lies, Nanda declared, the scarab glowing brighter than ever. The pulsating strands began to unravel. Their edges flickered like lightning, dissolving into the air, their power dissipating into the light. The very fabric of reality trembled as she pushed forward, the power of the scarab merging with her resolve. "No!" Shempu screamed, his voice cracking with desperation. "You can't do this. I am eternal. I will not be undone by a mere cat." His dark magic flared wildly. But Nanda stood her ground, her heart pounding with fierce conviction. "You're nothing without your tricks," Nanda shouted, her voice steady and powerful. "This is about more than power. This is about justice." She lunged, her paw cutting through the air, striking at the remaining threads with a final decisive blow. The blinding light engulfed Shempu, his form twisting and writhing in agony as his own dark magic unraveled around him. "You will pay for this, cat. I will return as I always do." Suddenly he began to vanish again. "No!" he bellowed, a long drawn-out no that could never be replicated. It was such an otherworldly sound, echoing through the storm, filled with rage and terror. As the light consumed him, Nanda felt a wave of triumph surge through her. "Not today, Shempu. You've lost." With a final burst of energy, she sent him spiraling into the light, his shadowy form disappearing into nothingness, consumed by the very darkness he sought to control. The storm collapsed into stillness, and the dark threads of reality settled back into alignment, their twisted forms returning to their proper flow. Nanda stood alone in the desert, the pyramids looming like ancient sentinels in the dawn light, their shadows stretching long and wide. Exhaustion weighed heavily on her limbs, yet a deep satisfaction blossomed in her chest. She had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. "I did it," she whispered, her eyes tracing the horizon where the sun began to rise, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson. But within her, the battle was far from over. She had stopped Shempu, but the fight for the future and the light still awaited. As she gazed out over the vast expanse of the desert, a renewed sense of purpose stirred within her. This victory was just the first step, and she was ready for whatever lay ahead. The scarab at her side weighed heavy, ever a reminder that this was not the end. Consequences loomed, and choices would still have to be made. The balance of time now rested in her paws, delicate and perilous. Nanda fixed her sharp green eyes on the horizon, determination carving her features. "All right, Bastet," she murmured. "What's next?" The wind whispered through the desert, carrying the faint echo of Bastet's voice. "The future is yours to shape, Nanda. Choose wisely." "No pressure then," Nanda muttered, before turning her gaze back to the horizon, ready for whatever came next.